Yeah, so the water situation is very critical, and I think something that is not going to be solved even with regime change. What regime change is going to do is going to slow down the destruction of our water infrastructure, but it's not going to completely fix it right away. Our natural resources and our infrastructure have been destroyed in such a way that it's going to take maybe decades to even come close to going back. There does seems to be advances in technology that might actually help us get there faster, especially becoming an ally with Israel, and Israel having the best technology when it comes to water, both desalination and also repurposing, reusing water. Israel seems to be ahead of the rest of the world when it comes to technology, so having Israel as an ally is going to be very useful for Iran after the regime is falling. But I do think that people, it's not going to be a quick fix. Like now that Islamic Republic has fallen, all of a sudden everything will get back to normal and everything will be fixed. Especially because a lot of the Iranian agricultural industry is now based on crops that require a lot of water, and shifting away. This is something that the mullahs did to us. Shifting away from that is really difficult. So the mullahs, because they're isolationists and they wanted to be self-reliant and not relying on imports, they looked at what Iranians were, what our agriculture was based on, and these were there were plants that it wasn't part of Iranian diet. So the mullahs are like, well, Iranians don't eat this, so we should switch to something that Iranians eat. Like for example, they switched to rice and watermelon and plants that required a lot of water just because it was part of the Iranian diet. But the problem is that what we were planting actually during the Shah time, even though the Iranian people didn't eat it, they were very expensive. Like Europeans would pay a lot of money for it. So we were able to export that, and with that money just buy whatever Iranian people needed to eat. But again, the mullahs didn't want to rely on trade and foreigners. They wanted to be self-reliant. So they basically, a huge portion of our agriculture right now in Iran is based on stuff that use a lot of water. So shifting away from that, especially in today's climate in Iran, that's going to be very difficult to shift an entire agriculture of a country away from all of those plants to something else. But again, this is something that I think is going to be a big, big problem even without Islamic Republic, unless technological advancements get us to a way that we end up coming up with solutions that are much more effective than what we have right now. That's always a possibility. The specific question is like, where are going to be the modernized?
Correct. What
Yeah,
do
I
you
was, I was,
see as the Oh, go ahead. Yes.
yeah, I was mainly asking what areas, what cities would be prioritized, because a lot of times what'll happen is consulting companies or major investment groups like BlackRock, they'll come in and they'll put some solution in there, but it's not the ideal solution. It costs a lot of money, it's good for them, and it kind of puts the country in debt. That's kind of okay for short term, I guess, but just curious if there's a multitude of approaches being developed so that it's more sustainable and not solely reliant on technology. Like what are some trees and stuff like that that could survive the desert but also provide shade and then kind of cool everything down? But I'm not asking you that
Yeah.
question. I'm just curious. That's my context.
So the volume of water that we need is like way beyond. Like we're not talking about shade and cooling. Like we're talking about such huge volume of water that is going to be needed that our problems are like astronomically more bigger than, oh, are we going to have shade or not, right? So we're talking an industrial level, volume of water that we're going to be short of. And I know some of the major parts of Iran that the water shortage is going to also cause security problems are the eastern borders, where water shortages are is going to feed into the separatists groups over there as well. So there's going to cause a lot of instability. Tehran itself is a major problem because of the high population there and how the water infrastructure there is not going to be enough to keep the population, basically be enough for the population need over in Tehran. So that's going to be a major problem. Also, I do think that private equities and investment banks have been demonized unfairly many times. A lot of people always talk shit about private equities and investment banks, and I think that's very unfair. At the end of the day, every time a private equity firm has a deal for you, the company on the other side has a responsibility to see if this is good for them or not, and if it's not, they could just say no. And no private equity firm is like the government. They don't have an army to force you into a deal. So it's your responsibility to decide whether or not you want to say yes to it or not. And if you say yes to a deal that doesn't end up being good for you, you're the one responsible. They gave you an option and you could have just rejected the option. So private equities, I think, are a good part of a solution because they always increase the options that the companies have.
Yeah, I don't know if it's now, but maybe after but I mean, the first salt water facilities we had, it took 5 years, the first one. We got better in this. It took us 3 years, now even less. And I think with your manpower, we can do it faster. But it's still for the long run. So I have a lot if you want to discuss it
Okay.
after
Jeffrey wanted to, I think,
it's
respond
just
to this.
we can make ideas and I can tell you how it works in reality and what's maybe
I,
should be.
I'm pretty sure the people who are like the people, there are many people who this is their job, and I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to have access to the expertise required to come up with best solutions. But I just don't think that there is a miracle, like easy solution that fixes all of this. But Jeffrey, you wanted to
No,
respond to this?
yeah, but I want to say
Yeah.
one thing.
One
I
short,
think,
short.
okay, now we do a lot of cooperation of young agronomists going to Africa to help there. And
Mhm.
we will prefer it from reasons that I will not say now to do it in Iran. So you will have
Uh,
a lot of people, academic people that regular to work in the field, come in and help you build the projects and leave and left you, give you to handle it.
nice, thank you. Okay, Jeffrey, short though, if you can.
Sure. So there's actually the the what is it? The legitimacy of dual purpose technology is very much directly correlative to the nature of the actor that possesses it. And this kind of like outlines exactly the damage the Mullah regime has caused to the Iranian people. There is any number of revolutionary technologies that could address both power and water. Next gen nuclear desalination, leveraging Gen 4 reactors, lead cooled integrated fast reactors, burning MOX fuel. In this case, after said revolution, the Mullah regime is removed, comprised of fissional material pursued by the Mullah regime in their illegal nuclear weapons program, have it operate in a closed fuel cycle with on site pyro reprocessing and post fuel cycle ADS transmutation, underground hardened, automated, monitored by AI, and hopefully operated by a joint venture. I would contend this would be the optimal approach between the post regime civilian government, both as it's defined by the transition period led by His Highness Prince Reza Pahlavi and whatever civilian government Iranians ultimately choose, as well as Israeli security forces, that would allow you to produce both like cheap electricity and ungodly amounts of fresh water very quickly. Right? I mean, the Iranians could have that. Tragically, because the Mullah regime, given its horrific nature, has chosen to focus on producing illegal nuclear weapons, that's denied to the Iranian people. It just illustrates the nature of the Mullah regime and how that hostility is operationalized and how the Mullah regime prioritizes things. It prioritizes what? It doesn't help Iranian people. It doesn't care about feeding people. It doesn't care about any of that. It cares about ensuring its position of power, and it will indeed pursue any number of lines of effort to do so, including pursuing illegal nuclear weapons, supporting terrorists, using funding instead of on like critical infrastructure to besiege and all the rest of those crazy people to keep the Iranian people under their yoke.
Awesome. Okay.
Okay, next is Kimia.
Hello? Hello?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Beautiful
Okay,
name, by the way.
perfect. Thank you so much. Sorry, my voice is somehow gone from last week. I went to the
Oh,
protest here in my city, so I hope you guys can hear me. I
thank you.
want
Thank
to
you so much. By the way, درود به شرفت.
Merci. Panel. Anyways, let me get to my point quickly. I just wanted to comment on first what Amy said, because I think we need to be way more careful with using the term dictator, because I just think it's used very broadly and people label Arya as a dictator, but And they also label Trump as a dictator. But I feel like the two things that the two people that we're talking about, the one thing they have in common is they are both very much a nationalist. We need to stop labeling people who are nationalists as dictators because both of these people, we have great examples of what they have only done to that country to just make it better. Some things he did were very controversial, but that does not mean they weren't aimed at making the country a better place. We can see that now. We see that 47 years down the road, which sadly, some of us who have been born into this now are learning through history books. Same as Donald Trump, I feel like he's the one president who I've seen in many, many years whose policies are actually aimed at lasting more than the 4 years he's in office. Whether all the other presidents we've had until now, all they've done is to gain votes in the next election just to be able to live their lives in the White House. So I believe that labeling nationalists as dictators has to change, and maybe we need to find a different term for it if we're not willing to use the term nationalist. The second thing I want to mention, and it's a question to you, Armin, I wanted to know, like, how necessary is it for Khamenei to be found and to be either killed or taken or whatever his devastation may be? Because historically speaking, we saw this in the Nazi Germany time when Hitler was already his regime had already collapsed before he was even found dead in his bunker. So how even necessary is that to happen? Like, I believe that, yes, the fact that the US and Israel need to help the Iranian people is not a question at all right now. However, once that does happen, what are the chances of Prince Reza Pahlavi being able to enter the country once the regime has somehow fallen to its core, which means all of the heads are either dead or have deflected out of that regime and are willing to give in, even though Khamenei may just be still running around in his bunker.
Right. So that's a very good question. Regarding Khamenei, you know, I think it would be ideal if he doesn't die, both because of all the information that we will be getting out of him and because of the trials. We need, like, having him come in a trial where he has to face justice by the Iranian people would be very important, but mostly from a pragmatic reason because of all the information that we're going to be getting out of him if we catch him alive, right? Some people mention that if he dies it's better because it might divide Iranian people over what needs to be done to him if we catch him alive, so it's better if we just get it done and over with and kill him. I don't know if that's true because many times I've heard this will divide the Iranian people and then it didn't. So the things that people predicted that would divide Iranians didn't divide Iranians, so this might not divide Iranians as well. My preference would be for us to catch him alive for both pragmatic and emotional reasons. We want him to see that Iranian people have won, that he's facing justice, that Iran is prospering without the Islamic rule. I mean, he cares more about Islamic rule than his own life. So seeing that there is no Islamic rule over Iran would be fitting, but that's just emotional. For a more pragmatic reason, capturing him alive, I'm pretty sure he knows things regarding, because we want to bring so many other people to justice, so being able to interrogate him will give us so much information that is very useful about bringing other people to justice. However, I think the priority right now is for less people for Iran to be dying in the path that we're on. So if anything happens, like if they just take him out and kill him, if that, for me, the priority is less Iranians die, right? So if any option just gets us to that point faster, like if, for example, they could take him out and kill him, and that would mean that the regime, there's going to be more defections faster and less Iranians will be dying, I think we should just go with that. Like, yeah, we could be upset, like, oh, I wish we had access to him. I wish he could see this or all of that. That's true. But our number one, two, three, all up to 100 priority should be to do everything and anything that will end this nightmare faster. And if that means just take him out, then just take him out, right? Does that before I go to Princess of Pahlavi coming back? Does that I want to make sure that I'm not going off track. Does that even
No,
address your question?
you're completely on track. The only thing is I fully agree with everyone wants him alive. Everyone wants this guy to go to court. We've all had so much done to us, whether it's been personally or to our families. So I just wanted to see, does him being even found, is that even necessary? Because like, for example, Prince Reza Pahlavi can come back even if this guy is still in one of his bunkers. We don't even know where. When that regime has fallen and when his soldiers above ground are all defeated, does it really matter if we even have him found? That's what my question is. Because,
So
for example, in Hitler's
if we
case,
don't
that
have
didn't
him found,
happen.
so if he's still not neither killed or found, I would be worried about the safety of Princess of Pahlavi coming back to Iran, because Khamenei being alive means that many of the people on his side still think there is a fighting chance, and there's going to be more easily mobilized to do some like thing terror. Like I don't even like I've heard Princess of Pahlavi wants to come back to Iran even before the regime is toppled. I want him to be safe. I want him to delay coming back to Iran as much as possible, because I don't want him to something happen. I mean, it doesn't take that much force to do one terrorist activity and then take him out. I think like I want him to just stay out of Iran until everything is completely stable. What do you think?
No, but my question, I'm saying when the whole regime falls. So, for example, the only person remaining who's on Khamenei's side is Khamenei. Because let's say Israel and the US do attack Iran, and it is going to be a very attack considering everything they have in the Middle East right now. So, that attack on its own is going to, they're already scared. They're already emptying their consulates everywhere. So, that attack is going to scare them even more, I believe, to the point that all of these heads of state are either going to be dead or they're going to be deflecting. They're going to go towards the regime where they feel like they have that power. And then what is Khamenei going to do on his own? Come out of his bunker with a AK-47? Like, I don't think he personally has that much power as an 86-year-old.
I don't think that we're going to see a situation where the entire regime is gone and Khamenei is still in his bunker. I think before the regime is completely toppled, we are either going to see Khamenei dead or arrested or something, because it's not like, I mean, his wherever he is going to be easily identifiable, right? And I think he's going to be high on the list of targets. So I don't think he's going to be last. I think he's going to be ahead of most other people. I mean, even if the regime is falling, I'm pretty sure there's some people around him that will betray him. I'm almost sure the person that Khamenei trusts the most and is seeing every day is a Mossad agent. Okay, so I don't think you're going to see him being like be the last man standing and everything else has fallen apart. I think he's going to be either the first or somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, maybe I'm just being a little bit too optimistic, but I was just looking at it and comparing it to someone like Hitler, which is honestly the most dictator
Well,
political figure that you can look at. And he was
when
never
Hitler
found.
died,
His
there was
whole
still some
regime.
fighting going on, right? And he is not going to kill himself, right? And the thing
That's
is, where Khamenei is hiding, Khamenei is not like he's an old man. He's not going to be able to his bunker or whatever. There needs to be the lights on, they need to change the air, they need to bring food, so their system needs to be able to continue for him to be able to maintain that environment, right? So that's why if the system collapses, it's not like Khamenei is going to just survive on his own. The system is maintaining his hideout and his bunker and everything, so he's not going to be able to just continue in being in his bunker without the system around him supporting him.
Yeah, I completely agree now. Thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so
By the way,
great
guys,
segue because oh, go ahead.
can I just quickly translate two things, because Kimya said Arya Mehr, uh, Reza Muhammad Reza Shah. So Arya Mehr is a name that Iranians gave Muhammad Reza Shah, our previous Shah, which means the light of Aryans. So Arya Mehr means light of Aryans, and that's what how we refer to King Muhammad Reza Shah. And Kimia means alchemy, which is Kimia's name. All right, so who's next?
So next was a question from Ziv, and it was along those lines, but he was more asking if Israel came in and either eliminated, took care of him, got rid of whatever, would this accelerate the IRGC collapse? And he also wants to know about the death penalty for the Ayatollahs.
Armin, can I
Oh, whether
quickly correct you for a second? Alchemy is the Arabic term for kimia. Kimia in Parsi, it actually stands for hard to find or nayab. So there's actually a term in Parsi for it. Alchemy is the Arabic term for it. I just wanted to make
yeah,
that clear. So we're not
yeah,
using
but
Arabic.
I use the English word for it because people
Yes,
here
yes.
speak
No, I
English.
wanted to mention the Parsi meaning for it because
But
there's a
here's the
correct.
thing. Okay. But I just use the English term. BT, can you ask the questions again? Because when we cut the video, I want to make sure that this is not like nothing. There's nothing in between. Can you repeat the questions that I'm supposed to ask?
Yep. So next we have a question from Ziv, and he is asking about Khomeini being either eliminated or taken care of in some way, captured by Israel. Do you believe that that would accelerate the IRGC collapse? Also, what about the death penalty for the Ayatollahs?
Meaning, are we going to be executing them once we win the revolution? Is that the question? So, yes, if Khamenei is taken out by Israel or United States, that's my assumption is that that's going to increase the rate of defections by a lot because that would be a huge signal to everybody that the game is over. Remember, right now, the Islamic Republic is trying to do everything in its power to suggest that everything is normal, nothing happened, nothing to see here. This was a terrorist activity and it's now neutralized because the reason why the Islamic Republic is trying to do that is because it understands that if people think that we're close to a collapse of the Islamic Republic, that is going to increase the number of defections from the Islamic Republic. So that's why they're so desperate to show that everything is normal and nothing is falling apart and the Islamic Republic is in control right now. If Khamenei is taken out, that would be a huge signal to the armed forces that, okay, I think we're close to a collapse. And it's going to convince a lot more armed forces to start defecting because they're going to be thinking about their survival. So it's going to have a huge impact. This is why, even though I want Khamenei to be captured alive, I understand why we might just take him out, like want to take him out. If they can capture him, taking him out to start the defections might be ideal. Unfortunately, well, it's not ideal, but it's like the best we have. Regarding the death penalty, so here's the thing: there's actually among Iranians there's disagreements over this. A lot of Iranians. So before this massacre, the disagreement was over, oh, we want revenge because these people have been killing us. They've been killing, raping, torturing, and crimes that is belongs to the dark ages, not to the 21st century, right? A lot of Iranians get very angry when anybody suggests that we have to stop the cycle of violence and executions and think like, did you not see what these people did to us? And even Prince Reza Pahlavi, for example, he said we have to have justice for everybody that committed a crime, but he will also always insist that we shouldn't be chasing revenge, right? Because even if we punish people, is for justice, not for revenge. That's part of his messaging always. And a lot of Iranians think that, even though it makes sense that we're angry, but after the Islamic Republic falls, we have to act like a civilized nation. We have to join the modern world. Having executions makes us look barbaric, makes us look backwards, and we don't want to be like the Islamic Republic, right? The Islamic Republic started with a lot of executions. So if we start with a lot of executions, we're going to become closer to what the Islamic Republic is. And that's not how we want to start a nation, by having a lot of executions, right? So there has been disagreements among Iranians over this. When I used to, when I was on my Persian channel doing a live stream, I suggested to my audience one last symbolic execution for Khamenei, and that would be the execution to end all executions. I think they did that in Romania. They killed the dictator and then they ended the execution after they killed him. So we might want to do that. However, I don't think right now, I think a lot of Iranians will I think a lot of Iranians are thinking that execution might be too merciful, and we should basically torturing these people to death, right? Based on what they went through. Like a lot of Iranians have been radicalized in the past. I don't want to endorse violence, but you could see where they're coming from based on what they experience. I think a lot of Iranians are not in a position for anybody to tell them like, oh, maybe we should act more civilized, right? A lot of Iranians are basically, I think, in a want to, they say things that I understand that I don't even want to repeat. But again, we have to understand where they're coming from. Honestly, I've been radicalized. Like I have changed some of my positions based on what has happened in the past 2 weeks. But again, at the end of the day, whatever we're going to do with our justice system, it's going to be based on the constitution that we write and the laws that we pass in our parliament, right? So it's going to be a decision by the Iranian people. It's not going to be like a kangaroo court. It's going to be whether we execute or don't execute. I'm pretty sure we're not going to torture, so don't worry about that. We're going to be more civilized than that. But whether we're going to have capital punishment or not is going to be decided in a democratic way, but based on the Iranian people, or based on the decision by the Iranian people. Does that answer the question?
Okay, next we have Mr. Spivak. Danny?
So yesterday I saw some tweet by Neobar about an app called Conduit, which you can install on your device to route internet traffic through it. My understanding is that it acts like a VPN and that it's used a lot in Iran, but I'm not very familiar with it and I don't want to endorse what I don't know for sure. So my question is, does anyone know anything about this app or similar apps?
I haven't heard of it.
AM, if you're raising your hand in response to me, you can answer.
Yeah, I actually wanted to. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, first of all, I wanted to say to Armin, I just received the confirmation that Hushang is alive.
Oh my God! Thank
Yeah,
you.
thankfully, one of my guys spoke with him. I think 2 nights ago. He just said he doesn't have any connection. He couldn't connect and talk to anybody.
Who
Which
is
brings me
that?
to the next point.
The guy
The
who's alive?
Somebody in our Persian Discord server that like was missing, and people assumed he was shot dead in Iran.
Okay, thanks God.
Yeah, and regarding to Conduit, I actually wanted to talk to you guys about that. If I can share my screen, I wanted to show a stat regarding that application. It's
Guys, I don't know. Like, are you guys sure of this? Because I don't want to promote something that ends up being like, I don't know what we're promoting, and I want to make sure that we're not putting anyone in danger. And I haven't put any time into
I
researching
heard
this
that
or anything.
IRGC
so
sells VPNs in Iran.
Yes, it does.
what Conduit is. It's a, I don't know if you lot know anything about torrenting. It's basically a peer-to-peer connect.
I don't know if
Um,
we should be sharing it here, because then I don't know if we want to be responsible for suggesting something that ends up like getting people in danger because of their information. I know I know I know it's probably safe, but maybe you want to send a
um,
message to me before I could check it before you talk about it next time.
sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Is that okay? I hope you
Uh,
understand
uh,
why I'm a little bit.
no,
Yeah.
of course, no. It just the app itself encrypts the data, and if you use any other app like WhatsApp, any message you sent through those applications, they encrypt your data as well. So even if hypothetically there was any
Yeah, but
problem,
even some apps are encrypted, but because they have their servers in places where the IRGC has access to before they get encrypted, sometimes they don't have enough security. So, for example, WhatsApp, I heard, even though they encrypt, it's not very secure. That's why some people use Signal instead of WhatsApp, because where the servers are. So sometimes the information is stored in some servers before encryption, and there are ways to access this information before it gets to the encryption level. So that's why just because
okay.
something is encrypted, it doesn't mean that it's 100% safe.
Jeffrey may have something to chime in on this. He's just raised his hand.
Okay,
Yeah,
Jeffrey.
to Armin's point, and again, Anne, this is not to denigrate you or the contribution you can make. I can very much understand Armin's hesitancy. There is no such thing as perfect security. right? There are varying levels of insecurity. So yeah, you can use things like Tor and Onion and like WhatsApp and Signal. They lower the level of insecurity. They are by no means 100%. And Armin is very correct in the sense that the Mullah regime maintains a very comprehensive cyber warfare effort, and you have to be very careful, particularly what Armin and everybody else is doing regarding the pro-Iranian protester diaspora. I mean, like members of the Mullah regime were directly following and threatened Tulsi just like 3 days ago, right? Like that
Right.
happens. So I mean, Armin is right to be concerned. It is not to denigrate your contribution, brother.
The priority to my eyes right now is the fact that we need to get people connected to their loved ones, to say that they are alive, to say that they're well. And an app like this is doing its part. There are about 46,000 people right now as we speak, about 46,000 people that are connected. If you want to do more checks on that, be sure that it's safe, then that's absolutely understandable.
You could also post that into our community, and maybe people could look into it. Maybe Jeffrey, would you be able to look into it a little bit if AM posts it in the community group tab?
I mean,
Or you're
I
muted.
have some training in it, not to the depth that would make
Do you
me
know
comfortable
do you
make
know
it.
anybody that could look into it? Maybe.
I can ask around. I mean,
Okay.
I only have so much bandwidth, brother. I'll
Yeah.
try.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, you're already doing so much. So sorry for
No,
yeah
no, Armin, it's not me being mean. I'm just letting you know about the limitations, right? If I
the
have time, I
limitation.
will
Yeah.
do so. I'll
That's
ask around.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Quickly, who might help is Francisco. He's one you might want
Oh,
to ask.
okay. That's a
Yeah,
good one.
and just the last point I wanted to make, Armin, I have sent you new videos that I recorded today in our demonstrations in Germany, and also
Uh,
another story that of someone in Iran, which I've sent you, and I'll also translate it for you in case you wanted to share it when you
okay.
go back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you. Thank you. By the way,
Next
no promises of.
we have D-Dom.
Hi, good evening. I wanted to actually ask it in the chat, but I'm not sure. I wasn't following. Like, I just wanted Armin ask on your thoughts on exposing the IRGC archives once the regime falls. Do you think it will like help preventing such stuff and also
What?
banking all the sorry?
You said it will help what? Sorry, I missed the part.
Prevent like further Islamist occupation of Iran
Oh.
and or not Iran but maybe any other country who is vulnerable to that.
Yeah,
And
of course. Very much. Iranian people have been very much eager to there's so many discussions regarding what they want to get their hands on and where they are. Like we have had years of discussion over what we're going to do and which information we're going to dig out and what are we going to look for once we get access to these documents and these files. So we have been fantasizing about getting access to these documents for years.
and also a quick course to history. Want to do it really quick. How much is it possible? Then I tell why I want to tell such story. Like in the beginning of the Soviet Union, they had a lot of opposition, a lot of Tsarist generals who was fleeing from Russia after the revolution. Some of those generals had a lot of popularity and political ambitions. There is one famous case of the KGB setting up a big operation to get such one general. They made a big crowd who was going and chanting his name and doing everything to be looking like they are very pro this general.
And tell me what the main point of this, because I think
The
I'm
main
missing it.
point, the main point is he was convinced. He came to Russia, and they actually arrested him and executed him. So my
Oh.
point is, like, I really hope that that case isn't what is playing around with.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So you're hoping that there's not a plan to kill Pahlavi. Yeah, I hope so too. And I hope that the team around him, I hope he's getting a lot of good information from United States and Israeli intelligence. So to be careful about that. And I think that he is. So I think that Mossad and CIA are tracking everything, and I think if there's any plot to try to assassinate him, they would give him the information. I mean, that's what I think that is happening, and that's what I'm hoping is happening.
Yeah,
So
Mossad is
that
a
gives
strong
me a little.
organization, but like you can't trust them.
One thing that makes me feel a little bit better is that the Islamic Republic has planned so many assassinations in the past couple of years, and every single one of them was failed and stopped. So that gives me some level of. But again, yeah. But I am worried. And you should be. We should be too. So yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Next, Khaisher.
Khashayar.
Yes. How
Xerxes.
are you guys?
Khashayar
Can
is
you hear me?
Xerxes in English, right?
Yeah, I was named after, it was my namesake. Actually, a little bit about me. I actually was born in Esfahan. My family's from Tehran. We escaped because my grandfather was the commander in the Artish for the Shah. So when the revolution happened, basically they were going door to door, all the quote unquote revolutionaries, and executing bloodlines. So we actually had to escape and we came to Canada. I'm in Canada now, which ties into my real main question is, so Canada a couple of years ago passed that law or whatever that they were going to go that harshest thing, sanctions on all the incoming people from Iran tied to the IRGC and all that other stuff. Never saw anything about that. Trump is supposed to be deporting all the families tomorrow, as per what the reporting is, and he's saying that. We've closed all the embassies in Europe, and they seem to be doing really not much in terms of starting any sort of like a deportation thing in terms of closing actual embassies, rather than they just designated them terrorists. But at what point is the Canadian government, you think, going to actually step up, one, and actually say something meaningful, two, do something meaningful?
So the embassies have not been closed in Europe, right? That's what you meant to say, because that's what I've heard.
Well, the thing is, like, they did that thing they said a couple of years back, where they said they were going to do the that thing that they did for the Bosnians and all that other stuff during the fall of Yugoslavia, where they put those heavy sanctions on the regime there and all that other stuff. With the IRGC, they haven't. There's plenty of documentation of people still here that are tied to the IRGC. They've really done nothing to take anyone
Yeah,
out.
exactly. It's shameful, and we're never going to forget this. We have a Nazi-like regime in Iran right now, and these countries are still wanting to make sure that they have left the door open to have relationship with them, just in case, because they haven't been convinced that the Islamic Republic is going to be toppled, and they still value their relationship that they have with the Islamic Republic more than the lives of the Iranian people. That's what this is. They think that the Islamic Republic has oil and gas and it's in a very strategic area. Just remember that when they talk about human rights and caring about human rights, it's all bullshit. They only use that as virtue signaling, because when it comes to actually doing something meaningful to save people's lives, they're thinking about the interest that they might have with the Islamic Republic. But they go blame other countries like United States and Israel for prioritizing their national interests over human rights. But look at this. They are actually trying to continue to maintain a relationship with the worst regime that is out there,
Well,
just because they're
that's what I
afraid
was
of.
saying. Sorry I didn't mean to cut
Yeah.
you off. Just the one last thing.
No,
So
go.
that's the whole thing. You brought up the oil and gas, and I think that's what Trump did. I think a lot of people missed it because it's Tusi says this a lot, where he says, "Don't focus on what he's saying. Focus on how serious he is about something." I think he
Hmm.
took out Venezuela, so then he had oil supply. So if even if they close Hormuz, they got nothing because he can backstop it from his end. Then they can go into thing like right now. 2C was saying that the Royal Air Force is coming in, so they're doing a whole coalition thing. So everything I think that's happening around Trump and he's becoming so volatile is actually a misdirection of he just shamed the British Army into joining by saying they don't do anything for NATO. You see what I mean? Like everything he's doing is moving strategically that way, and I just wish that the Canadian government would step up and just do something rather than make friends with basically the enemies of the world right now, because they're becoming an enemy to Trump because they got that Trump derangement syndrome and all that other stuff they say.
Regarding Venezuela and the oil, the Islamic Republic is not in a position to shut down oil coming out of the Hormuz Strait. They would that would be their last hour of existence. They rely on that oil money and gas money. Everything they do costs money. If they shut down the Hormuz Strait before the rest of the world even feels the pain, the Islamic Republic itself is like, oh, I'm going to shoot myself in the head to make some of the blood stain your coat or something. That's what there's like. Yeah, shutting down the. I just came up with an analogy. Shutting down the Hormuz Strait is like, oh, I'm gonna shoot myself in the head so that the blood that comes out of my head is going to basically stain your clothes. It will end the Islamic Republic right away. That's their entire revenue. How are they going to do that?
Well,
Right?
I think it's because it would have put the pressure on everybody around, right? To put pressure on the U.S. to not invade, as a threat to say we're going to
Yeah,
shut off the
but it's
oil
an
supply.
empty threat. It's an
Of course,
empty
like
threat
everything else they
because
do. Like,
yes. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. But you don't. I'm saying you don't need Venezuelan oil to fight against that because the Islamic Republic needs the oil money and gas money more than the rest of the world needs that oil and gas. I mean, the rest of the world needs the oil and gas, but the Islamic Republic is more reliant on the revenue from the oil and gas more than the rest of the world is reliant on the oil and gas. So it's an empty threat.
I just hope that at the end of all this, like you said, we don't forget who hurt us. I'm looking at the
Yes.
UK, I'm looking at France, I'm looking at the Carter administration, like the Democrats in the US, I'm looking at the Canadians who had a whole Ukrainian flight bombed and still haven't done anything about it. Like it's embarrassing. So, anyways, we'll leave it there.
I think
I'm sorry.
I think the calculation is that these are lesser powers now, right? And Canada and Europe are so reliant on the world order the United States provides that even Canada, like moving towards China, that's also an empty threat because you cannot replace America with China. Okay, you cannot replace that. Like Canada would not even be a viable country. I mean, most European countries would not be viable without American support, without the security that America provides, right? So I think all of these international order and all of these international laws that people have been using, it made sense for America at the time. America, even though it has been a superpower for a long time, the distance between its powers and European countries and Canada is now bigger than it used to be. So there was a time that America needed its allies to basically maintain order more than before. But now, because the gap is bigger, I mean, what is NATO? NATO is America, okay? It's right.
Yeah,
So
I
if
guess.
NATO
Yeah,
is
you're right.
America, if NATO is America, I mean, I'm exaggerating, right? But like,
Mhm.
can they survive without America? I think
No,
that
I don't think any
given how
militarily no one can. It's just virtue signaling. It's the same thing with the Palestinian cause, and now they don't care about Iranians because, well, we fund them. You know, like the not
no, but
we,
but
the regime
but
funds their cause, so they don't want them to fall because they lose their funding.
the point that I was trying to make is that the when we talk about international law and the world order as we know it, we have to understand that it exists only because America wanted it to exist. So it will be used because America is paying the price for it to be there. It has to make sense for America, or else it would not be supported. So America was supporting it for a long time when it was benefiting from all of these allies contributing to the world order that America had in mind. And now that they have turned into leeches rather than contributors, then America is moving away from not completely, it's a spectrum, is slightly moving away from backing these standards and this world order into an more transparently and more obviously American led order rather than one that was being done with the Canadians and the Europeans.
And just one last thing, just to lighten the mood a little bit. You and Goldie talk about making T-shirts and all this other stuff. I had an idea. I tried to put it in the chat there. So we called
I
Soleimani the Kotlet. You can make
Yeah.
a thing into Nun Khamenei.
Oh,
Make him
okay.
into a Nun.
Yeah, okay, okay. I
All
actually
right.
haven't been talking about merch. I should have been, but I have been so behind on that. But I should be talking about that at some point. But yeah, thank you. I'll come. I want to make a gargots. I want to make a gargotry t-shirt for protecting Jewish people. But anyways, that's
All
for later.
right. All right. Thank you, guys.
If Israel
Thank you.
itself does not gift you a Garkod tree, then I will as soon as you get into a free Iran.